Good evening, folks, and welcome to Inside the Consolidated Channel. As always, I'm your host, Brock White, joined by the Dickinson Press's managing editor, Dustin Monkey. Dustin, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
Good. We have a very special episode of Inside today. We're kind of going to shake up the format a little bit and do something kind of different.
Different format, hopefully one that we carry on a couple times before election season really gets going here. So
it's important to kind of go, I think, in depth and long form with our candidates and get some information from them. So in studio today, our interview is with gubernatorial candidate and North Dakota entrepreneur Doug Burgum, along with his running mate, the current mayor of Watford City, Brent Sanford.
Brent Sanford.
Yeah, so we're going to do a nice long interview with them. Stick around, some great stuff there, Dustin. We'll talk about a litany of topics.
Oh, we talked about so much. We let Burgum introduce himself, talk a little bit. You know, he hasn't been over to Western North Dakota much, even though he does, own a ranch out here. He talked just about himself, why he's running for governor. We pressed him on some hard questions that he answered. We had to press him on a little bit.
Yeah,
that's journalism for you. We got some answers out of him. And then stay tuned for the very end where he brings up the NFL draft and why he thinks he might have some influence on where Carson Wentz goes in this month's NFL draft. Possible insight.
Maybe,
He has an inside track.
And then after the interview, stick around. We'll talk a little more about his meet and greet at the B2 Lounge in the evening after our interview with him and some of the news that came out of that.
Absolutely.
So here we go, folks. Our interview with Doug Burgum and Brent Sanford. Welcome back to Insight, folks. If you follow national politics in 2016, you know it's the year of the outsider. Candidates like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump going against their status quo. Well, North Dakota is no different. Joining us today in studio, our very own political outsider, Doug Burgum, and his lieutenant governor candidate, Brent Sanford, the current mayor of Watford City. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today on Insight.
Thank you, Brock. Great to be here.
Oh, pleasure's all ours. Doug, if you're from Fargo, people know who you are. But on the western side of the state, they might know you at best as the Microsoft guy. So really quick, tell us who you are in a snapshot and why you want to be the governor of North Dakota.
Okay, well, it's simple, Brock, but I should start. I grew up in Arthur, North Dakota.
Yeah.
It's 337 people if you count everybody in the Good Samaritan Home. We do count them. That's about an extra 100, but great place to grow up. My family was involved there. My grandfather started the grain elevator business. My dad was the manager, so I grew up on the farm, working in the grain elevator, learned all the great things you can growing up in rural North Dakota about hard work, perseverance, self-reliance. When something was broken, you fix it yourself, or you talk to a neighbor. You don't run to the government for a solution. So that's how I was raised there. And then when I was a freshman in high school, my dad passed away after a two-year bout with cancer. My mom had to go back in the workforce, and so I had a chance to see how she responded to that. Raising three kids, and learned a lot of perspectives about a single woman working, back in the world. So after NDSU and after a chance to go to Sanford grad school, I discovered the power of personal computers and personal software at the very infancy of that industry. And I had 160 acres of ground that I'd gotten from my dad. I mortgaged that. That wasn't a very popular idea with the family. You don't take debt out against land that's paid for. But I took that money, and that became the seed capital for this fledgling startup called Great Plains. And we grew it from 10 people in 1983 to 2,000 team members in 2001 at the time we got acquired by Microsoft. And of those 2,000 team members, they came from 220 different towns and communities across North Dakota. And so we had from kids from all over the state, backgrounds like myself and like Brent, another Class B guy. We had people that were that had grown up with those rural North Dakota values of hard work, and we built a world-class company with Class B kids. And in deference to Dickinson and Fargo, we had a few of those too. But it was we built a great company. So that's a quick snapshot. But basically, I've spent my whole life creating jobs, attracting capital, and here in North Dakota, and I'm running for North Dakota because I love North Dakota. This is what I do. I mean, I could have built that company anywhere. I chose to do it here. I believe in the state. I believe in our people. I believe in our future, and there's an incredible future ahead of us. And I felt like the way that I can have the most impact going forward is to. The governor's job is the closest thing we have to a CEO job in the state. I'm really not interested in being a politician in the sense of I don't want to be a congressman or a senator, but the governor's job is like a CEO job where you have to lead the state, you have to manage budgets, you've got to direct now over 10,000 state employees, and I've run operations at scale like that, and I know what it takes to get businesses through the downturn like the one we're facing. But at the same time, I know that I've come from a background of innovation. done. We have to keep innovating on how we deliver government services to get to where we're going to go going forward. So excited about the opportunity, and I believe in democracy. I think competition is good. I think it's great that we're having this primary contest with Brent and I, presenting an alternative for the voters, and so it's exciting that North Dakotans are getting a chance to vote on who they want to have as their Republican candidate for governor and lieutenant governor on June 14th.
You kind of lead me into my first question there, Doug. Is people ask the question: you finished third in the Republican primary. Why did you stay in the race and choose to run on the primary ballot? I mean, you pick up Brent, western side of the state guy. What was the decision there? Why did you choose to stay in the race and stay running after that?
Well, on the day I announced back in January, I announced that I was going to run in the primary. I said I'll go to the convention out of respect for the hardworking Republican loyalists who are there, the people that are putting in yard signs, the people that are working in their districts. I said I want to go there. I want to tell the story. But by the time I got into this race, most of the delegates had already had their mind made up. People had already decided who they were going to support because the other two guys in the race had been at it for 3 months before I even had entered, and so just said, hey, we're going to go in the primary. And I think again, I believe that the Republican primary, when you have 100,000 voters, it's more representative of what the state voters want than when you have a smaller subset of that, like 1,800 people at a convention. I just think it represented. Teddy Roosevelt himself was involved in the creation of primaries because he said, hey, primaries are a great way to help ensure democracy because every citizen gets a chance to vote. There was ranchers from out west that had calving. They couldn't go to Fargo that week. Talk to mother of two, she can't get a babysitter and get a hotel room and come. We got a small business owner up in Williston that can't come. So there's lots of Republicans that couldn't come to the convention. So we went in there, understood. We thought we were going to do worse than we did. We did better than we thought at the convention, but to us it was just a stop on the way.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead, Dustin.
So you've said in the past that you would, if there was some things you could cut from the budget, there'd be 100 things you could cut from this budget as we try to rein in spending here in North Dakota. Expand on that for us. What are some of those things? Have you come out with any policies on there, positions on that of what you would cut to help save the state some money right now as we enter this, as we shouldn't say enter, we're well into this oil downturn and we're looking to cut spending here in the state. What are some of those things you'd like to trim?
Well, I think the first thing I've talked about and I'm on the record has said the very first thing I would cut would be cut my own salary. And now people have tried to make that an issue. They said, hey, he's been successful, he can do that, that's not fair. I'm not sure what the argument is about success, that somehow we've become anti-success when it's, earned through the system that we have. But for me, it's not about wealth, it's about leadership. Because when we were building Great Plains and we were in tough times, myself and the other leaders of the company, we took pay cuts to help us get through when we were going through downturns. Just in the last 3 years from now, there's a software company that we're launching in Fargo, Intelligent Insights. It had about 40 employees. Obamacare comes along, mandates on electronic health care records. The company had zero revenue for 18 months. That very promising North Dakota company would have gone away. We had to, the CEO was let go. I came in as the interim CEO for 18 months without pay. That's what you do to help, keep a company like that going, helping to cover payroll, by just writing checks to keep that company going. Now it's a 120-person company, and we're, selling software to all the VA hospitals in America. But, when you go through downturns like that, sometimes you have to step up. As a leader, you take the first cut.
Sure. Any specific examples though in the North Dakota budget you want to get after? Yeah,
well, the ones that I've been on the record, because there's been a point of view that has said, oh, we're okay because we plan for a downturn. But let's be clear, on the $1.1 billion shortfall that we're having right now, the 4% cut that was offered only covered about 20% of that. That was about $240 million taken out of that $1.1 billion. You've got another over $800 million that had to be made up somewhere, and it came from, we're draining the ending balance down to zero, ending balance of the general fund. It was $700 million last July. It'll be zero at the end of the biennium, so I call that taking the checking account to zero. We had a savings account called the Rainy Day Fund, or the Budget Stabilization Fund, that had grown over 10 years to $575 million. That's down to $75 million, and that may be eaten into even more by the time this biennium is done. So on this next go round of budget cuts, this is not going to be a belt tightening exercise. This is not going to be another 4% cut. This is going to be something much more substantial than that. So I've said everything needs to be on the table. But the first place to look is there's in Pam Sharp, our OMB director, produces a report. There's 9 pages single spaced of one-time funding. We've done one-time funding 5 sessions in a row. So for 10 years we've been doing one-time funding, and I don't know that we're going to be able to do any one-time funding out of the general fund next time, but even in that set of one-time funding, which is often characterized as infrastructure or much needed infrastructure, there's items in there that are neither infrastructure nor they're one-time. And so I think there's some simple things in there. I mean,
cutting the fat.
Yeah, I mean, there's examples in there. $1 million spent on copiers. $200,000 on a trail lease. I mean, those things are not one time and they're not infrastructure. So there's dozens and dozens of examples, and it'd be easy to get to 100. I'd say ask any legislator today. If you talk to the legislators, I think they themselves would come up with ideas of things that they, in retrospect, would say, those are things that we probably wouldn't have spent. But to be clear, there was some spending that was very important, and that was for when we spent money on much needed infrastructure. The surge funding, which came from a completely different bucket. The surge funding was not part of the general fund. It came from the strategic investment and improvement fund, and there was over $1 billion of surge funding to communities like Watford City, and it made a huge difference. And I think that's completely a smart thing for us to do on the surge funding, because it was taking the money that came from those impacted communities and getting the money back. And Brent and I believe in local control, and we think the best decisions are made local to people, and giving that money back to those communities where they could put it to work with leaders like Brent, is a very, very smart thing to do. But that's no one should confuse the surge funding, that good, with this, government euphemism about one-time spending. Because I think Ronald Reagan said there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And if you do one-time spending for 10 years in a row, pretty soon it's not one-time spending. It's just something that and we're going to be in a position where we're going to have to really rein that in.
Sure. Talking about the surge, talking about Brent's experiences, really quick, Brent. What you went through in Watford City in the past 5 years is unprecedented for this state. It really is. What are some of the things you've learned and that you could apply at a state level in our new changes we're going to experience now you could help bring to Doug's campaign?
Well, just going around the state and so far through the West that I've gone with Doug, I mean, the same concerns come up in every community that happen in Watford City. And the same concerns are happening there today that are happening in Watford City. People talk about property taxes. People talk about declining sales taxes. They talk about infrastructure needs, and then we get into the other infrastructure needs that we began calling infrastructure, such as daycare and affordable housing. Without those, you don't grow a community either. And so the experience of Watford City growing from 1,500 people to well over 10,000 in the area is something that I think was a crash course in learning community development, community growth, financing, problem solving, and I hope to be able to take this statewide and be able to bring it into the governor's office, and not only that, but helping work through with the legislators and the agencies, just like we've had to the last 7 years in Western North Dakota with those same folks, and working with them of trying to find efficiencies and effectiveness and be able to sort through with a scalpel, which of these things which is necessary, which are things we can look at being more efficient, more effective in how we're doing these processes. And so that'll be another area that the experience that we gained in the West, coming to Bismarck, to the legislature, the crash course, taking that and bringing that in at the state level.
And I would just throw on top of this, I'm so excited to have Brent on the ticket with this thing. I mean, I honestly think that Brent could be the most qualified lieutenant governor we've ever had in the state. Certainly the most qualified given the economy that we're heading into. Because if you take a look at a guy, who's, and I'm an NDSU grad, so I think it speaks to my open-mindedness, because we've got a UND grad.
He's already reaching across the aisle. That's great.
We're all about collaboration.
Nonpartisan.
That's right. Equal opportunity employers. So UND grad in accounting, but Ide Bailey for 8 years, CPA, worked as a CFO of a trucking company in Denver that half their employees, 400-person company, half their employees were from North Dakota. Then he comes back to Watford in 2004, when there's nothing happening, but he's there, working as a small business owner and as mayor during this whole thing. He's seen the rise in prosperity, unprecedented. Now he's seen the downturn, and having this kind of skill set of financial budgeting, CFO skill set with direct experience. I mean, when we've got so much of our revenue dependence coming from the oil-producing counties, we need someone in the governor and lieutenant governor's office who's got that direct experience. And so I'm super excited about having Brent on board.
You guys seem like you're right there with each other on business. You guys seem like you're really in sync on the business side of things. You know, in the past, right away when you guys formed your partnership here, you guys caught some criticism for Brent not rallying behind Doug so much. We'll say some criticism of Doug early on. Yep. I guess, how did you guys mend those fences? And what's your responses to what have your responses to those criticisms been?
Well, I'll just jump in first, which is the thing that's been so surprising to me from people that have spent their life in politics is when I announced that Brent was my running mate there, it was almost like, well, you can't do that. It's like, I'm like, huh? I mean, because like when we were building a business, we would, just like you would in any professional sports league. I mean, if you're trying to build the best team, you're trying to win a championship. If the best wide receiver, the best quarterback, the best players on the other team, you figure out a way to trade for them. You figure out a way to recruit them in the offseason. When you're building a company, we would be competing against companies from all over the world. I'd meet people from the competition. I'd come back from those things and I'd say, that guy is really good. That gal is really good. We should have that person. We should get that person on our team. What do we do to get a jersey? Get them wearing our jersey? To do that. And I think for Brent and I had to talk through a number of issues, walk through some misconceptions, and do that. But the idea everyone should applaud the idea that as a leader, I'm going to take the best people and put them in the job. Not just, I'm not surrounding myself with people that agree with me. Brent doesn't have to agree with me on 100% of the stuff. Part of the way you build a great leadership team is you have people that are strong enough to stand up for themselves and hold an idea. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about Brent. Because Brent's got a point of view. He's lived it. I haven't. So I think it's fantastic.
Okay. Brent, do you have anything on that, or?
Well, basically, I was watching the campaigns as they were coming to fruition, and my first impression of Doug was, wow, Doug Burgum is putting himself into this race, offering his services. He's one of our most legendary CEOs in the state, but does he have a shot? And as much time as I spent in Bismarck at the legislature and with the agencies, et cetera, I was questioning, does he have a chance? You see the 10% numbers at the beginning. Is this something that has a chance? But as you're working through, and we had issues to sort out, like, do you really not support the Surge Fund? Turns out that wasn't quite the case. That was a misperception, right? And then as the convention worked its way through, it became apparent to me that Doug has a shot at winning this, and he's got a legitimate shot at winning this. And I like what Doug's bringing forward. I love this chance to have a CEO running the state. And he needs someone from the West that's had some experience, some school of hard knocks that can bring some East-West and some experience from the Bach into the ticket. Okay. And so I'm all in. I'm very excited.
You mentioned going to the convention, 10% polling in the beginning, and Wayne Stenjum it's institutional. It's a name we all know in politics in North Dakota. But it's Hoven, Stenjum, Dalrymple. It's just part of your everyday vocabulary in North Dakota politics. So going up against that and what you've called the good old boys network in Bismarck, and you want to break it up. Explain that a little bit. Who are the good old boys, and who do you want to go after? Not go after, I should say, but how do you want to shake things up?
How do you want to break it up?
You mentioned term limits. Is that correct?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, the simplest thing on breaking it up is win. Brent and I win, and then you basically change the path that was laid out. Because if you think about the convention, the convention in some ways, for every race except governor, the convention was a reinforcement, stay
the course.
Yeah, stay the course, a coronation. We're going to call it, from candidate decisions that were made, by a small group of people last fall. Who we're going to put forth on the ticket. Their conversations. Hey, you should run. You shouldn't run. This sort of juggling. Who we're going to put on the field. That all happens behind the scenes. Well, those people come forward. There's a few independents that come from the outside. The convention is basically set up to reject outsiders, and then you get the result that you have, and which is again why primaries were invented, so that voters have a choice. But by winning, it's going to bring a fresh set of faces into that structure. And and the other thing which is interesting, I think, for voters to understand, because people know that Wayne. I've known Wayne for 41 years. I mean, it was a year before he first ran for office. He was my older brother's law school roommate for 2 years in the small state of North Dakota. We all got either one degree of separation or no degrees of separation. And I voted for Wayne as he's run for Attorney General. During the 5 times that he's run, but he's in the middle of his term. If Wayne, if Brent and I win, Wayne remains Attorney General for
another 2 years. You mentioned welcoming him back and following out his term, right?
So he'll have he's got
I would hope so,
2 years, and he would remain on the Industrial Commission as one of the top regulators, and he gets to finish his term. If Wayne wins, and if he wins the June primary, highly likely he becomes governor, Wayne will appoint the next Attorney General. And at least I, for one, again, as someone who believes in democracy, the Attorney General position in our state's an important one, and it's not only because you're Attorney General, but also because of the role in the Industrial Commission and its regulatory role. And I think voters ought to have a chance to vote for who's going to be our next Attorney General, as opposed to, have
the hand-picked process.
Yeah, the hand-picked process. So part of what Brent and I are running for and standing for is not just local control, but we're also trying to push against having a broader set of people, the voters in North Dakota, be a chance to select candidates as opposed to a small group of people in Bismarck select them.
Your opponents and some of your people that are probably on the Stenjum camp, on the Stenjum side, say you pivot on social issues a lot. And Brock and I were talking about this a little bit. It seems like in Fargo, in Dickinson, there's a different mindset on social issues. Probably a little bit more conservative here than in Fargo, especially, I know you're a big advocate of downtown Fargo. I know the area well. It's not downtown Dickinson. There's a totally different mindset. So what do you say to the people? And you went to Bowman, Scranton, Hettinger, Beach, Medora this week. Have you been faced with those questions by voters on social issues? What are they saying to you? What do they want you to bring to Bismarck if you are elected when it comes to social issues?
Well, I can say I've been in a dozen towns in the last 2 weeks, and maybe have had one question. And the thing, it doesn't come up. People are worried about their pocketbooks. I mean, they're seeing the same thing that all of you are seeing. I mean, they're seeing, hiring freezes. They're seeing, budget shrinking. They're seeing sales tax going down. They're worried about what's going to happen to property tax. They're worried about the state's ability to keep doing the property tax buy down. They're worried about low ag prices. Anybody in ag, if you're an implement dealership, you haven't sold any machinery. And if you're in oil, of course, it's every day there's more news of a contraction on that front. So I think again, this is like every election. It's going to be, and we're not running on social issues. We're running because we believe we can get conservative business leaders into the office, people into the governor and clinic offices who can help set the state on the right track relative to our fiscal things. And so it doesn't come up, and we don't talk about them, and they don't bring them up because I don't think it's the thing that's leading on voters' minds right now.
If you don't win in June, who are you endorsing for governor?
Well, I'm a guy that likes to. I think I would address that on June 15th. Right now, we're planning on winning on June 14th, and I based on the momentum that we have, I'm feeling very good about our chances.
You talk about momentum. I mean, the last couple weeks, you guys claim you guys' polling claims that you've made a jump.
Bismarck Tribune as well, right? There was a poll in there, I believe. It was really close.
Where are those polls coming from? And will you guys be releasing the full scope of the poll here anytime soon? All the demographics on it and everything like that?
No, the answer is no. I mean, it's like sort of like the playbook. I mean, if you've got a great poll with good, solid information, it really helps you make decisions about next steps. I mean, this is politics is it's both a battlefield, but it's also a chess game. And I don't think the NDSU Bison would hand over their playbook to a team before they played. I don't think we would. But I would just say, we're very confident in the accuracy of the polling data. We're very confident about how it was done, and it's not. And so it is the same numbers that we're making decisions off of. So it's and I'm a guy that's data driven. I'm not going to make decisions off some. Pumped up set of data. Right. I'm going to be making the decisions off the off the very. And again, I mean, this is, and I don't have the, we are fundraising. We are fundraising. Certainly, we're doing that.
Yeah, because there's the myth that it's all self-funded and all these things.
No, we're doing fundraising, but but I just like any other business I've ever done, people that have invested in with me, and people have invested with me in dozens of startups. They know I'm the first money in, and sometimes I'm the most money in. But across the way, I mean, I've had an opportunity to make literally billions of dollars of return for shareholders, but part of it's because I'm willing to take the risk first, and they know that I'm making decisions with good data. And so I'm not going to be spending my own money on a campaign unless I've got good data on what I'm doing. So
one of my questions for you was, and I think you've answered this pretty well, was what kind of governor do you want to be? But I think you've answered that pretty well for us today. You know, you look at the CEO, look at it as a CEO role, and obviously, you know, just bring the state economy back seems to be your number one goal here.
It does, but I think, you know, I mean, a lot of people get confused about CEO roles because maybe, you know, the CEOs in movies get, you know, the boss. the boss.
Oh, we've got Donald Trump kind of making those headlines for us.
Yeah, but I don't think of Donald as CEO though. I don't think of him that way. But it's but you know, when in the role of a CEO, particularly in tech companies, where you've got in a software company, all of your assets are your people. Everything that you make and sell comes out of the minds of your team members. It's not like
there's no iron. There's no
iron. There's no factory, and you can't be like, okay, well, you know. I mean, so there is no idea of that you've got
creativity is your asset.
Creativity is your asset. The people are your asset, and there is no way to sort of say, hey, well, we can keep our factory, but let's swap out the people that are working in the factory. You can't do that because the knowledge is all in the people, and in a lot of the same way in government, in terms of whether it's in education or healthcare or whatever, it's the people that are teaching and giving the care. And so I understand about people assets. I understand about taking care of them. There's 5 companies in a row that I've been involved with: Great Plains, Microsoft, SuccessFactors, Avalara, Atlassian, all of these companies, and now Intelligent Insights, together 6, all have been on best places to work lists, including the Fortune 100 best places to work. You don't end up on those lists unless you really know how to take care of people. And the leader's role in that is, for me, it's always been servant leadership. I mean, you, in the sense that as the leader, you're serving the people you work for, not the other way around. And the way you get innovation to happen in an organization is that you get people on the front lines, you give them the tools to be able to make the best decisions they can, because it's often the people that are closest to the problem. That could be the snowplow driver, it could be the teacher in the classroom. Those people have a better idea how to fix it than somebody who's sitting back in Bismarck someplace. And so it's all about, and there's so many ways with new technology where you can get information, collect information, and bring information into your system, data collection from all these people. Everybody's got a smartphone. Every one of your team members has got a supercomputer. I mean, you can, be polling these people weekly and getting input and really finding out what's going on out in the field in ways. That's what great corporations are doing. CEOs, are making decisions today based on the information coming from the front lines. That's what the model that I'm talking about is really being things. So
bottom up.
It's a bottom up. So when I talk about about being the CEO, to me that model is that I'm serving the people in North Dakota. I'm serving the people that are working for the state government. I mean, that's my job, is to do that. And so it's all about empowerment. When you say, what do I want to do? What I want to do? I want to make sure that we're the most empowered state we can possibly be, because when Brent understands this, if a mayor of our cities has to spend, half of their year every other year, coming to Bismarck to try to get some dollars to come back to their community versus being in their community and actually driving ideas and making things happen, we're taking them away from a productive role, and making them, come to the center, to try to get an allocation. If we could keep more of the dollars locally, keep these guys, speed the processes, get them out there and doing the things. And there are so many things that can be done, from frontline, bottom-up ideas. Sometimes it's not more money. The solution is always more money. Sometimes it's better design. Sometimes it's a better idea. And this happens, this happens all the time in business, when you're driving that innovation. So, and I think there has been, the last 6 years during the prosperity, I have felt in the North Dakota that I've grown up in, I have felt that people are starting to do this thing of, the way we're going to solve our problem is go to Bismarck and get a chunk of the big pot of oil money. If we can do that,
that might be a nationwide epidemic. Really. I mean, it just kind of trickles down from that mentality nationwide. But
and I'd like to reverse that. I mean, part of the way we made a great state was because we had the ingenuity. I mean, if you think of the Melrose and the Steigers and the Dahl family done Concord, all of these things were guys solving a problem on the farm, coming up with some ingenious idea, which then became bigger companies, and we can do the same thing again, today, whether it's with, UAVs in agriculture, whether it's value added in energy. I mean, but part of it is we have to have entrepreneurs and city leaders that believe, that are empowered, and that government's gotten out of the way, and that they can go do the amazing things the private sector can do. Yes,
certainly.
So where else will you guys be this weekend? Where are you guys heading after this? Thursday, Friday, Saturday? What's on the agenda? Yeah, where's the bus? Where's the bus going?
The 1974 GMC. I don't know if
Does
you
it
know
have Atari in there?
We're maybe a little out of the.
Microsoft Xbox.
We don't.
No Xbox? Oh.
There's actually a sign in there that says no radio playing on the bus. It's
wow.
from 1974. So it's trying to manage.
I'll get you some vinyl. Take care.
Yeah.
So it's my cousin Keith Peltier from Arthur, guy that I grew up with, almost like an older brother to me. You may know it's a little far west, but Proceed.
Oh yeah,
which is a good thing. And of course they're homegrown North Dakota seed company. You might hear his ads on the.
They've done a great job branding on the Bison games.
Yeah, they have. Anyway, so this bus normally just makes it to Bison tailgating with the with the Proceed. But we've rewrapped the bus.
Yep.
But we had our first in our first journey in it the other night. We were it's a couple weeks ago when we were going from Grand Forks to Grafton to Rugby, and heater not working.
Oh boy!
Heater not working. We stopped at Kmart, got some extra blankets.
Oh boy!
We got to Rugby. It was 28 degrees, and it was warmer outside the bus than it was in the bus. So we were.
So it's not quite the Rolling Stones.
It's not. But we're having fun getting all these communities and getting out and getting the word out.
What's next now? What's on Friday for you guys?
Well, Dickinson tonight, and then Brent and I are splitting up, and he's heading west, and I'm going back to Fargo, and and then back Saturday the bus will be at the Green Gold game.
Nice.
Spring Bison football game, so we'll be there on Saturday. But
cool. And then Watford City Monday.
Yeah,
Watford City Monday.
Watford,
Okay, so you're heading up to Watford City on Monday, both?
Yep.
You're always
Bringing
there,
Doug up
so
there.
you're selling pickups there every day, so
Only half the days now.
Only half the days. There you go. Well, at least you're still working there, right?
Well, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming to Dickinson.
Definitely,
Absolutely.
And we'll keep a keen eye on the upcoming primary here and see
we talk about it every week. We talk about oil. We talk about the race here every week. So
and we also talk about Carson Wentz.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So we do talk about Carson Wentz.
One or two. Where's it going? You're an NDSU grad.
I'm
Rams.
Rams. Eagles traded for number 2.
Yeah, it happened this afternoon.
I don't want to.
Something they know.
I don't want to break the news because it sounds like I'm name dropping. But
you got the inside source.
But Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, I've had a chance to spend some time with him, literally. Last month at a meeting before this whole thing came up with Carson. So we were at a business conference. I was talking to him, and I said, Stan, this guy is the real deal. I mean, I've had a chance to get to know Carson's dad, Carson's family. I mean, his parents, from Jamestown. They're, friends of my significant other, Catherine's, and her brother, John is good friends with Dad. One of my buddies that I bow hunt with is a good friend of his dad. He's got Carson bow hunting. I mean, so I got a lot of connections with him outside of just watching his excellence on the field. But here you got a kid who's a 4.0, 3 years in a row, and he's got all these skills, and he's humble. He's the total package. I mean, we all know that. And what a great representative of North Dakota. But I told Stan, I said, look, this is, you want to face your franchise, this is the guy. You will never see. I told him, I said, you will never see a Johnny Manziel video from Carson Wentz. You will never see it.
You're probably right.
You spend whatever you want on this guy, you will never have to worry about that. And so anyway, I don't know if Stan listened to that or not, but it's it all unfolded.
You go out to the games, I never know. You and Steve and Balmer and Stan Kroenke can all hang out.
The Eagles must have liked downtown Fargo because they traded for that pick. We're filming this Wednesday, as we'll see, as we said. But the Eagles traded for that pick today. I think it's going Goff, Wentz 1-2. And
I don't know what the Browns are thinking.
I think so. I keep saying I'm a 49ers fan, and I would take a trade right now. I'll take a trade up to number 2 or number 1, hopefully, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, thanks again, guys. We greatly appreciate you coming on the show today and the insight here. And we'll keep a keen eye on things, and who knows, maybe we'll see you down the road here again.
Great. Thanks for having us on.
Definitely. We'll come back after this. We'll look at the week ahead on Insight.
Consolidated is committed to providing advanced network systems and service to the business world, staying ahead of the curve by offering digital technology with voice over IP, Ethernet circuits, hosted telephone systems, as well as cloud-based networking. GNet fiber technology allows us to offer internet speeds up to 1 gig, making your network more efficient. Our sales and technical team take pride in providing state-of-the-art service to our customers. At Consolidated, we're here to listen and offer the most efficient solutions for your business.
All right, folks, welcome back to Insight. A great interview, Dustin. It's nice to go in depth with him, and like we said, hopefully more candidates down the road in the state and locally we can get to know a little better and do this again.
Absolutely, and that interview was filmed, obviously, before he made a meet and greet appearance at the B2 Lounge in downtown Dickinson last night, or on Wednesday night.
Yes.
And you know, we learned a lot there too. He told a lot of stories of kind of his connections to Western North Dakota, and got in what Western North Dakotans would probably say,
a ringing endorsement.
A pretty ringing endorsement.
Yeah.
And what I would say was a weighty endorsement from former Dickinson Mayor Dennis Johnson, who has pretty good influence in the Republican Party in North Dakota. At one point was mentioned as a possible lieutenant governor candidate for someone.
A great track record.
Yep.
Very well admired.
Big businessman.
In the States.
Apparently
Yeah.
they've been friends for years. They met in the 80s on a committee and have been friends ever since. And Dennis gave him some glowing remarks last night.
A room of influence at the B2 Lounge.
There were
wasn't it?
several people there. Business leaders from Dickinson and the surrounding area were there. It was a very interesting crowd that I was able to find out. Some people that were there, they just wanted to know more. They said, we're not really Burgum backers yet. Maybe we will be. But they're trying to learn more about Burgum. They might know Stenjum. One person said, I don't really know a lot about either of them. So I'm trying to find out as much as I possibly can. And the person is a Republican, and he just wants to know more. And that's great. That's what we need more of in our political processes.
Getting to know the candidates.
People out there
policies.
willing to get to know the candidates.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who they are.
It's so easy in this day and age to, when you see the R or the D, just to make up your mind.
Absolutely.
And that's all you do. You put the blinders on. But you need to dig in to what the policy is, where they stand on things, and that's what we're hoping to do here with these interviews. Coming up throughout the year is really get into the nuts and bolts of some of these campaigns and find those things out for the people. So
absolutely.
Our big thanks to Doug Burgum and Brent Sanford and their campaign for stopping by and taking the time to join us here on Channel 18 and the Dickinson Press. And we'll see you guys next week right here on Insight.